Okay, so welcome back to our notes for over the communication process. We've gone over the action model and the slightly better action model two, which is basically the wood pickaxe or the Charmander of the communication process. Yesterday we went over the interaction model, otherwise known as the Schramm model, and you also had an assignment about it that showed that communication does not just go one way; it's constantly moving in a circle, right? So because of that, there is another model that's not like part of the main three, but there is one. It's really important because it looks at feedback and it also looks at how we communicate with each other. And it's also simplistic, but also really complex. And that's the Berlot model, which we're going to get into today. So this is not related to, I guess, the analogy. I guess it can't be Charizard because Charizard is the transactional model. But I think that there is a Minecraft like or in between. Like so, it's wood, stone, and then I guess would it be like steel or iron? So I guess that this would be like the iron pickaxe. It's something that's useful and it's still used today. So this is the Berlot model. So it's called Berlot's SMCR model, but SMCR stands for source, message, channel, and receiver. Let me get my arrows ready. Perfect. Let's make them purple. Okay. So, first and foremost, obviously it's the exact same thing. The source sends a message to the receiver. However, there's a couple things that we need to consider while this is happening, which Berlot's model does cover. So, the source is me in this case. Right now, since I'm communicating, I'm the one that is the source. I'm the source of information. You guys are the receivers. Now, a good communicator thinks about all five of these things before they start talking. Okay? The communication skills of the source. That's me. I like to think that I'm a pretty decent communicator. Okay? So I think about that first. My attitude, I try to have a positive attitude whenever I'm teaching. Knowledge, I am certified to teach this class, so I do have a good knowledge base in terms of that. Social system, I do understand that, we have the social system set up at school where students listen to teachers because they trust them, right? Trust them inherently. So we are participating in a social system right now. And then the culture, what the culture of American school is that usually, we learn some information and then you are tested on it or you are assessed on that skill at some point. And so the culture is kind of how that goes. But also, we have to think about like American culture, but also multicultural ism is very, very important. I don't want to offend any students when I'm teaching, so I try to make sure that I keep things not only accessible, but also making sure that if someone doesn't understand something with like an analogy or an example that I give, that I still try to really explain it super well because the culture can sometimes be lost on people. Now, the receiver has the exact same thing. You also have communication skills. You also have attitudes. You also have knowledge, things you already know, your schema, if you will. You participate in the social system as well, and you have your own culture that might be the same, similar, or different than mine. Now, the two main ones that I really want to focus on today are the message and the channel. So the message is obviously the thing that is being encoded and then sent over to the receiver. So the content itself is the meaning of the message. So right now, the content of what I'm communicating is the meaning. The meaning is I'm going over the Berlot model. The elements, these are things that you can add to make the communication better, like hand gestures. I know that some of you in your warm up talked about how you have certain teachers that give really, really good hand gestures that hopefully kind of help you understand maybe the little concept and kind of take one thing and then build off of that and continue to do so. And so that is that would fall under the elements. Treatment is going to be how the speech is handled or how the communication is handled. Are you really kind of thinking about who you're speaking to? Are you thinking about like your volume control and all that good stuff? Structure is going to be how the message is set up. Is it going to be short? Is it going to be long? Is it going to be really complicated? Is it going to be simple? The structure, it really focuses on that. And then the last thing, the code, that's the type of communication. So if you send a text message, that is still communication. If you talk to someone, that's communication. If you shake someone's hand, if you make them food, if you hit them with a pillow, all of those things are forms of communication, which actually takes us to the next one, which is the channel. So the channel are the different types of it breaks down to our five senses. So this is the way that we can receive communication. Yes, hearing is the most important one because we do hear things. However, there are a lot of people in the world that are deaf, and so we have to set up the world so that they're able to receive messages as well. ASL is super popular. Reading lips is very, very important too. And then, of course, they have they have a bunch of different things, technological inventions that can help them out with that. Sorry, I lost the word. However, hearing is a big one, but seeing, if someone like brought you a dog, they're not saying I brought you a dog. They just show you the dog. You see the dog, you're like, hey, I got a dog now. That's pretty dope. So that's one way. Shaking someone's hand, giving someone a hug, fist bumping, high fiving. But remember, we want to elbow bump now because of COVID, unless you're with your family, of course. But touching is another channel that communication can take place through. Smelling, you wake up in the morning and you smell bacon or pancakes or whatever it is that your mom cooks for breakfast, and you're like, I get to eat today. What a great day. And the last thing, of course, is tasting, because we can taste things. If something tastes bad, then we do have we do get that message. Maybe someone made something bad on purpose. But either way, that is how that one works. Let me clear these. Clear the drawings. Perfect. All right. Let's continue. This is the last slide. Feedback gives an understanding of the quality of communication. Feedback is described as the information that is routed to the source or fed back to the source from the receiver. So the way that that works is essentially there's four different types of feedback. There's verbal, nonverbal, intentional, and non-intentional. Verbal feedback is like, yes, sir, I understand. Nonverbal feedback would be all of that. Any kind of gesture is going to be nonverbal feedback. Then there's intentional feedback, things that you plan to do, but there's also non-intentional feedback. For example, if you're trying to read something and the words are really, really small and you kind of squint your eyes like this, you weren't intending to do that, so that is non-intentional feedback. If I'm talking about something and you automatically get upset, and you start to kind of like you start to frown, maybe like tense up, maybe you're not planning to do that, you weren't planning to get upset, but that was non-intentional feedback. So you mix the Berlot model in with the feedback in the models, and we're able to understand the quality of communication and also making it better. So when you guys communicate with each other, really think about how you every single time you're saying something or every single time you're communicating with someone, you have to consider the communication skills, the attitudes, the knowledge, the social skills, and the culture of both you and the person you're communicating with. And also think about the message, what the meaning is, what you're going to add to it, how you're going to treat the message, how it's structured, and what code said message is. And you also want to decide to deliver it through the different five senses. That's going to be it for today's notes.